Okay, just before we crack into today's video, let me explain how you can help us. More and more Kiwis are waking up to the fact that New Zealand is in big trouble right now. So how can we turn this country around? The answer is through education. What does that mean? Well, it means exposing more and more people to our videos. It's as simple as that. Just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and you'll be subscribed. Well, hi, you beautiful New Zealanders. In today's video, I've entitled it, Is the Maori economy really surging? The answer is no. It's smoke and mirrors. So I'm going to show you and talk about this. So what's in the box today? In this video, I explain how the so-called surging Maori economy is not what it's cracked up to be. Two, I explain why the Maori economy is projected as surging and booming. Why do they do this? Why do they say this? Number three, I explain the reality of the Maori economy. So watch. The Herald recently published an article on the so-called surging Maori economy. There it is right in front of you. I'll put a link to this article in the description of this video. These reports appear with monotonous frequency now. Honestly, they're just coming out all the time. They're popping up like mushrooms. So, what are they doing? Well, they make it hard. Let me explain. The Maori economic contribution to New Zealand's economy has grown from 17 billion in 2018 to 32 billion in 2023, according to the latest news. So what is the Maori economy? Where do these reports come from? Well, a look at sources cited in the New Zealand Herald story, breathlessly headlined, quote, highly anticipated report shows a dramatic growth in Maori economy. Shows that a smaller version had been released 2 years ago. That's what the article said. This year's ANZ report is available only by request to the ANZ. The only news report on it that I found is behind a paywall. What does this tell us? It tells us that Maori don't want the public snooping around and finding out the truth. They just want the public to read the headline and start clapping and think how wonderful Maori are. This is a classic strategy used by media and Maori when they collaborate. They use smoke and mirrors. That's what they're doing. They make it difficult to investigate the veracity and truthfulness of their reports. They're very cunning. So they're not playing on a level playing field. What is the Maori economy and how does it differ from the normal economy? Well, that's a good question. The difference is that the normal economy is measured by gross domestic product, GDP. You've all heard of that, which includes consumer spending, number two, government spending, number three, net exports, and number four, the total investments. So analysing these four criteria and applying a formula results in a comprehensive scorecard of a country's economic health, the GDP. Well, you know what? The Maori economy is measured differently. In other words, the playing fields are different. This is not apples for apples, far from it. Well, what do I mean? The way the Maori economy is measured was developed by the United Nations Environment Program. Now, anything coming out of the United Nations is usually corrupt and favours the so-called indigenous people in a ridiculous way. Well, this is no different. Their assessment includes how much land and water Maori control. It takes into account what it calls cultural and human capital. Well, what does that mean? Well, no one knows. Absolutely no one knows what that means. Details are not given. We can assume that significant extra points are given to Maori for resources and culture. So the entire Maori economy scoring system designated by the United Nations program smells of BS. So why are they doing this? What's the point? They want Maori to look good. They want to increase Maori wonderfulness. What for? They want the New Zealand public to think Maori are gun business people. And what's the point of that? So you've got to keep drilling down, get to the centre of the onion. We're all being heavily groomed to think Maori are better at business than Europeans, so we need to let them take over. We need to give them more control of New Zealand's resources and wealth. In fact, why don't we just give them complete control? That's what they want the public to think. In other words, we're being subjected to propaganda here. We're being groomed. So let's now just talk about tax. That's another issue here. It gets worse. How so? Well, the glowing New Zealand Herald story reports that, quote, iwi-owned commercial entities have outperformed some of New Zealand's largest listed companies. Whoa! But what they do not report is the fact that the vast majority of iwi businesses in New Zealand are exempt from tax. Did you know that? That's a commercial advantage for companies competing during an economic downturn, don't you think? See? It's a gigantic advantage. What happens if you have two supermarkets in the same suburb, both competing, one owned by Maori, one not? The Maori owner, he can put all his prices down and get all the market, get all the profits and get all the customers and turn the other guy into going bust. It's a huge advantage, and Maori have got this, see, in their booming economy. See, it's all pumped up. It's all smoke and mirrors. But that's not all. Look at all these guys. Palmer, Doug Graham, Bolger, John Key, Chris Finlayson, Matthew Rata. Mostly National is to blame for all this. The Herald story report that Tainui settled land grievances with the government in 1995 for 170 million without mentioning the ongoing top-ups that the tribes receive, along with South Island tribe Ngāi Tahu, which have more than doubled the full and final settlements of both tribes. Did you get that? Tainui and Ngāi Tahu received full and final settlements, yet when one totals up their top-ups, the top-ups exceed the initial full and final settlements. Can you believe that? In other words, they're being paid twice, sometimes 3 times. Yeah, 3 times over. Who set up this craziness? Who's to blame for this stupidity? Well, there they are on the right-hand side of your screen. All of those men. Matthew Rata kicked it off in 1975, that Maori guy down the bottom left-hand corner. And then Geoffrey Palmer, perhaps one of the biggest nutcases ever to get into Parliament. He really, took it to another level. And then the National Party just took over. It started with Matt Rata in 1975, then Geoffrey Palmer in 1987. Well, then National picked up the baton and ran with it. The blame for putting payouts and settlements on turbo can be laid fair and square on successive National Government ministers, particularly Bolger, Doug Graham, John Key and Chris Finlayson. The latter was the worst of the worst. That's Chris Finlayson. What Finlayson did between 2008 and 2017 was absolutely unforgivable. He shoveled cash and assets to Maori like there was no tomorrow. And you know what? He's still at it. He's trying to get all the water in the South Island to Ngāi Tahu. Well, what's the truth? You know what? Maori continue to underperform. What do I mean? Well, back to the Herald article. The article talks up a big game for the Maori economy, but the last paragraph of page 3 of the government's Te Ohanga Maori 2023 report lets the mask slip. It says home ownership rates continue to be lower among Maori, with only 52% of Maori households owning their homes, compared with 67% of non-Maori households. You see? So if the Maori economy is booming, how come they're way behind in home ownership? Additionally, government grants and social benefits constitute a larger proportion of Maori household income, accounting for 33% of the total. See that? All the benefits and all the large handouts, 33% of them go to Maori, yet Maori are only at the very most about 18% of the population. See that? Well, how come they're so reliant on social benefits and government grants to survive? So much for the big booming Maori economy, while this figure is only 9% for non-Maori households. See that? Notably, this is the first time since 2006 that the government assistance for Maori households has not increased. Despite the booming Maori economy, the financial underperformance of Maori in general continues. It's not excellent, it's not even average, it's poor. So why are they reporting on this great booming Maori economy? If it's so amazing, why don't the Maori who are running all this, the few of them at the top of the tree, why don't they support their own people? Why don't they do this? Why is the government paying out all the time? Why are we paying out with our taxes? Why don't they support their own? That's a good question. The multi-million-dollar settlements plus the ongoing tax advantage give the impression that iwi remain unwilling or unable to compete without ongoing preferential treatment by the government. In other words, the whole Maori economy is being propped up by the government. Did you get that? The Maori economy, in order to perform, relies on ongoing preferential treatment by the government. They can't stand on their own 2 feet. In other words, the booming Maori economy is smoke and mirrors. Self-reliance appears not an option for many, and this habit is reinforced by seeing iwi leaders enriched by the mega benefits and government grants that they are in charge of. What do I mean? Well, I mean that a small number of Maori at the top of the tree are getting personally richer and richer, while average Maori wallow at the bottom of the barrel. See? Welfare payments, both big and small, have become a big entrenched part of Maori culture. See that? Maori poverty exists not because we cannot feed the poor, but because we cannot satisfy the rich. The rich just want all the money and they're hoarding it. They're not distributed amongst their own people. See that? Yet they would blame colonialism, white people, for Maori poverty. It's nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. That's rubbish. So what's the reality here? In fact, I would call these ongoing payments and grants the cornerstone of the Maori economy. Conclusion? Any report about a surging, booming Maori economy you read will be, well, it's BS. It's also nothing less than grooming and propaganda. What most Kiwis don't realise is that the Maori have been receiving compensation, settlements and advantage since 1840. This is not just a recent thing. You know what, if one totals up all that they have been given since then, since 1840, and inflation adjusts the figure you come to, Maori ought to be trillionaires by now. They ought to be up there with Elon Musk, yet they're not. Why not? Well, you know the answer. You know the answer. So what is happening in New Zealand is remarkably like what's happening and what has happened in South Africa. What happened there? Well, in 1994, the native black African leaders promised that if they got into power, the economy would boom and everyone would be better off. Do you notice Maori saying that a lot? This is going to be good for everyone. But did the economy boom? Has it boomed? Were white South Africans better off, or even the majority of black South Africans? The answer to those questions is an emphatic no, no way. Currently, New Zealand has more race-based laws than South Africa. Do you know, I'm going to show you a little bit of video in a minute, and the guy on the video says that South Africa is the most racist country in the world. Actually, we're worse. We've got more race-based laws in New Zealand than South Africa. In South Africa, they call it black economic empowerment. That's how they justify it. In New Zealand, it's called Maori economic empowerment. Same thing, see? So if you want to know where we're headed in New Zealand, take special note of South Africa. They're like a vision of what New Zealand's going to be like. So watch this.
Now, since 1994, there have been something like 100 race-based laws that have been implemented in South Africa. What's been the impact of these laws?
So South Africa is the most racist country in the world. You'd think, having got rid of apartheid in 1994, having peacefully handed power from a white minority government to a democracy in South Africa, you'd think the last thing that our country would want is to return to a racist situation. But the ANC government has instituted 114 race-based laws since 1994, and they're doubling down. They're increasing them under the guise of transformation. But what is black economic empowerment? Theft. What is expropriation without compensation? Theft. The ANC government has instituted racism in order to basically break and steal the economy. And a report came out recently by Professor William Gumede, who said that black economic empowerment, those wonderful 3 words that you'd think, oh, it sounds very nice, I could probably accept that, has transferred 100 trillion rand to 100 families in the last 24 years. The ANC has run our country for 24 years, have introduced 114 race-based laws since 1994, and there's economic genocide taking place, not just against white people, but against colored people and Indian people as well. It's horrific. We're really on the edge of economic collapse, on becoming a failed state, thanks to the ANC.
Now, Rob, you're in the country, you're in Australia. What would your message be to our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, about what's happening in South Africa and what he can do to exert some pressure? Because we saw during apartheid, great pressure exerted on South Africa to change its ways. Other than Donald Trump, no one else seems to be speaking about this.
Well, I don't have much faith in leftist governments like Canada and Australia to actually say or do anything. All we ask of the world, of the decent part of the world, is just tell the truth. Just tell it like it is. And Donald Trump has basically stood up and said, I'm not happy with what's going on in South Africa. I'm pointing a spotlight on the country, and we're going to make sure that punishment fits the crime. And I'm not sure what that is and when it's going to come, but Donald Trump and his administration, I have to salute them. And I wish Albanese would even stand up and put a spotlight on South Africa, but I don't have much hope for that.
Well, let's hope he changes his mind. There are many South Africans in this country. We've got quite a big expat population, and let's hope they speak up. You have been very outspoken, very brave in talking about this issue, and we really do appreciate your time, Rob. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Okay guys, that's enough for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Now we need your help with something. This is important. We have produced some great flyers and brochures which we want to get into the hands of all New Zealanders. So we need to go around the mainstream media. They're not going to help. In fact, they're making things a lot worse. So we have to go around them. And we need your help to make this happen. We can't do this without you. So what are we talking about? First, there is our business cards. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Then there is our latest booklet called The Psychology of Takeover, 19 strategies Maori activists are using to take over the country. It's 80 pages and packs a huge punch. So they're cheap, they're $3, and they're absolutely fantastic if you want to get a handle on what's actually happening in New Zealand. Then we have a few thousand of our original Stop Co-Governance booklets left over from my tour in 2023. Remember these? You'll remember we printed 550,000 of these. Well, these are now free because we realized that only about a third of New Zealand houses got this booklet last when I did my tour, and so we want to get to the other 2/3. So if you do a few streets around where you live, that would be absolutely phenomenal, and they are free now. Then we have our MACA, that's Marine and Coastal Act brochure 2, which alert people to the loss of our beaches. You know, we're in danger of losing all the beaches around New Zealand. The text is written by Graham Adams, who's a great author. These are now free. And then we have our beautiful bumper sticker, which we've just made. And why are we doing this? Well, New Zealand's identity is under threat. We know that. First activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We don't want that. We must oppose this. This is rubbish. Where's the referendum saying that we want to change the name of the country? There was none. It was just forced on us. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more all over the place, and they're just treason. So we've got to get these bumper stickers out. So we've printed some awesome bumper stickers. They're $3 each, and they measure 21.5 by 6.5, so you can see how big that would be on your car. To get any of these free products, all you need to do is pay for the courier to get them to you. For the products that cost something, like the bumper stickers or the little psychology booklet, it's the cost plus the courier to get them to you. So to order any of these products, just use this email address, cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and we'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you want to access all the videos we've ever made, including all our most viewed and most popular videos, and have them all in one place, which is what people are asking for, then just type in this address into your browser. There it is there, https www.youtube.com/@stopcogovernance, and you'll find it goes straight to our channel. Then what you do is save this address to your computer as a favorite. Job done. Well done. Then you've got them all in one place forever. And all the new ones that are coming in get placed into that address, so you won't miss anything. Okay, last thing, please, oh please, don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll get the latest videos straight into your inbox. You'll never miss a video, which is great. You'll link up with like-minded people all over New Zealand, and that's very, very stimulating to have meet up with all these people who think like you. You'll be telling YouTube, I like these videos, and they will respond by advertising our videos to more Kiwis for free. It's incredible what they do, but it just relies on you replying to comments and making comments and liking things and sharing things and activity. That's what it is. It's just activity on our channel. And turning New Zealand around is simply a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the truth. So just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of your screen. The little yellow arrow is showing you where it is, and you'll be subscribed. Okay, see you next time. You guys are awesome.